Shulim and Brocha. Let's talk a bit about Chanukah and the lights of Chanukah, what light really is. I'm often amazed that the resilience of our Torah leaders, our tzaddikim, our gedolim, has shaped the wonder that is Klal Yisrael. From our very beginning, this nation, this people, defied all odds and thrived despite the most difficult times. Where does this ability to hold on and even grow despite adversity and difficulties and problems with strangers around us, where does it originate? Where did we get this stuff from? What is the wellspring that gives us this courage, the hope? So Chazal called the Sefer of Bereshis, the first part of the 5 books of Moses, Torah's Ovos, the Torah of our forefathers, which intimates that everything in this Sefer contains a myriad of teachings, of lessons that we and the children of those great forefathers, of those holy ancestors, these lessons are embedded in these weeks of reading the Torah, and everything we need to learn and to absorb to fulfill our tikkun in this world is found in the Parshas of Bereshis. Some time ago, I was visiting my mentor, my best friend, Rav Moshe Kupitz, soll sein gesund. He should have a refuah shleima. I asked, please, you should daven for Shula Moshe ben Bela, needs a refuah shleima. So I was visiting him, and he shared with me a Medrash Lekach Tov that's extremely moving. The Parshas Vayishlach, which we read last week, is unique in the vast majority of each of the sentences start with the letter Vav, which usually means and. So we are taught that sentences starting in this way generally have a tinge or a hint of future sorrow. So this Parsha contains the blueprint of all the future epochs of our people's diaspora, the goals that we are all in. It tells us about the sale of Yosef HaTzadik by his brothers and the beginnings of the descent back into Mitzrayim. Little wonder that there's a lot of sentences that start with the tinge of sadness. Look what's happening here. Yet there are 8 sentences in the entirety that start with other letters. So while he was sharing this insight, I remember Moshe, he sighed. He said that no matter how many times you learn Chumash, there's always going to be a new surprise somewhere along the line. And most people will never see this pattern, yet there it is, and will be needed when it's needed. It comes to us. 8 sentences of hope, mixed in with all the woe and all the vavs and all the ands and all the sorrow. Perhaps this represents the 8 days of Chanukah, which is a time of illumination created in the midst of the darkest times for our people. When we are faced with difficult challenges, and who know more than we in this age of Corona, hopefully we're seeing the beginnings of an end to it, but still things are so difficult. People are sick and they're still getting sicker. Where do you go? This moment, We are meant to embrace the knowledge that in this mix of darkness is found light. And it will be this light that will ultimately, eternally be celebrated. We have a unique halacha, a law about Chanukah. The Gemara tells us, and the Shulchan Aruch records it, that one who can't light for himself the menorah and sees candles of someone else's, nevertheless, he should make the bracha, she also nisim lavosaynu, who wrought miracles for our forefathers, right? So when you see someone put on tefillin, or lulav, or blowing shofar, you don't make a blessing. Only on Chanukah does one make a blessing when seeing someone else do the mitzvah. Why? What's the difference in Chanukah? Says the Kedushas Levi, the Heilige Rebbe from Berditchev. He tells us that Chanukah is the holiday of seeing. Every yontiv corresponds with a different one of our senses. Purim is about hearing. We hear the Megillah. Pesach is about taste. It's sharpened with the matzah and the morah. On Chanukah, says the Berditchev, we evaluate our sense of sight, testing how well we see. What kind of seeing are we talking about here? We're not talking about glasses. It's not our physical sense of sight that the Rebbe is telling us about. In our times, the scourge of fake news and all the fake, phony, and who knows what we see and hear, we certainly have to accept that not everything we see is to be believed. No, for a Yid, there is a higher sense of seeing. It's the understanding that Kaviyuchel Hashem is in our lives constantly. His illumination is there within our lives. Embedded in us is the illumination of Kaviyuchel Ha'Eibishter. It's permeating even in the difficult challenges that we all go through. Whatever life throws at us, there is that essence of illumination that is embedded in us as Yidden. The highly respected, there's a Rabbi Ephraim Goldberg offers a brilliant example of this dynamic. An example, he says, what's the difference between a room that's filled with darkness versus one that's filled with light? Is there any change in the room itself? Whether the light is on or off, the furniture stays where it is, right? The layout of the room is the same. The placement of the door, the height of the ceiling, it's all the same. That's constant. So what then is the difference between the light being on and the light being off? Just one's perception. The ability to identify and see the reality, the truth, and that which was right before you, right there all along. Chanukah is about seeing things, people, ideas, miracles that are actually in front of us all the time, even though we may not be able to visibly see them. The Chashmonaim didn't see that there were few in numbers. They didn't see that they were weak and they had a small army. Impossible tasks stood before them. No, they saw the Yad Hashem. They saw that they had an obligation to stand up for what's right and fight. And they saw divine protection that would accompany them no matter what happened. Chanukah is about lighting the candles and using them to harness our sight, our real sight. Not the sight that you have in your glasses, but our deep vision of what is true, what is real, what is emes, what's precious, and what's dear. The Torah holds secrets that await us with every reading of it. So we have 8 sentences of light, 8 days of Chanukah. Even in the midst of our goals, they flicker and they offer hope. Whenever did we need more hope than now? We often find ourselves enveloped in a cover of darkness. The power that our overs bestowed on us through their actions, through their challenges, even in such a haze as today, there is a glimmering illumination that is the hava, the love Hashem has for us. So Chanukah should shine into your souls and into your hearts and into your homes. And we should be able to be together and see Simchas, the Mahara b'Yamein, the Mashiach should come, B'Kulav Mamish.